Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had a really great, amazing week. And for those of you who are brand new to Mental Health Moment with Dr. Hammond, which is every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome, welcome. Thanks for those who are starting to join here today. Let me know where you are tuning in from in the chat. Today, I'm in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, where I reside. And I know most of you usually tune in from all over. So, welcome, welcome again. And thanks so much for tuning in here. So, for those of you who are new to Mental Health Moment, again, it's every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here live. And essentially, Mental Health Moment is about ways that you can work on showing up powerfully for yourself and for those around you, right? So just finding ways to always get back into a place of wellness because, as we all know, things happen in life. We get distracted, disappointments happen, great things happen, like life happens, right? And it's really important to make sure that we're getting back to making ourselves our number one priorities and doing what we can to grow as people. So that's what Mental Health Moment is all about, in case you're new. So on today's Mental Health Moment, it's been on my heart to share this with you because I think it's important. At the beginning of this year, we've talked a lot about, moving into a new year. A lot of you maybe, hopefully, are still in a mode of new year, new me, and all these goals and things to think about and have ways to get better, right? But again, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes on our mental health and wellness journeys, things happen. So things happen that may disappoint us, things happen that maybe we disappoint ourselves. The actions we take, we're disappointed with how we reacted in certain situations. People can disappoint you, situations can disappoint you, life happens, right? But how do you deal with anger? Anger is a very strong emotion. So how do you deal with anger? Have you really taken a moment, hopefully so, but when you do check in with yourself to really think about what is it maybe, and you don't have to, well, unless you really want to, but you don't have to answer this in the chat because this is more of a personal question for you to think about. But what do you need to let go of today? And knowing that letting go is not, it's not always easy. It depends on what it is. There's a lot of things that happen to us or for us, but letting go is really important, especially when it comes to anger, because anger in its strongest form can lead to disease. It can lead to mental breakdown. It can lead to stress. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to depression, all these sorts of things when we really start harboring these negative, angry feelings. So, whatever it is for you, again, you can answer the chat if you want to, but you don't have to because this one's more of a personal one today. But when you think about today, what do you really need to let go of and not harbor the resentment or the anger or whatever it is? When you think about that, then you have to ask yourself, okay, are you ready? Right? The first thing is, what do I need to let go of? Fill in the blank for you. And then the second thing is, are you ready to? And be honest with yourself. Like these are questions for you. So for some of you, I know sometimes you take notes on mental health moments. So if you're taking notes, again, thinking about, and for those of you just joining, we're thinking about how can you work on clearing some anger, right? Anger is a strong emotion. Anger is a normal emotion to have. But the problem is when anger starts to really fester and you're holding on to anger over time, you're holding on to resentment over time, that is not helpful for you. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, not helpful, right? So because it's not, then you have to ask yourself, man, what do I need to let go of? And here's the thing, okay? Take a step back. These are things for you to reflect on because you know what it is that you need to let go of or work on letting go of. And then the second question, as I mentioned, is are you ready to take that step? And the third thing to keep in mind, you all, is that each and every one of us have a process with this. It's just that it looks differently, right? We all have different life experiences. Some of you may be going through something where you're like, man, you still need to work on forgiveness of something that happened in your childhood, right? Whatever that may be. For some of you, you're like, nope, I'm good. I've done my healing work, my inner work, therapy, fill in the blank, whatever it is for you that helped you get past certain things in your childhood. Maybe it's something that happened to you yesterday, right? But you're still holding on, or something that happened last week or last month or last year, and you're still holding on. You have to really ask yourself, is this working for you? Is this healthy for you? Is this really truly healthy for you? And hopefully you answer, no, it's not healthy for me to hold on to grudges, to hold on to the resentment, to hold on to the anger and what it does to you physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually, right? It's not a healthy thing to do. So how can you take the steps to work on that? So today we're talking about anger, right? Because again, a lot's going to happen. Like that's life. So I want you to really think about, after you really examine to yourself, like, man, what do I need to let go of? Because I know you've seen it before, because it usually pops up on my social feeds now and then. I see little memes or little, posters that say like, just let it go. And sometimes it's hard. Well, I'm always honest with you on Mental Health Moment that not everything that I'm sharing each week, some of these wellness tips, they're not overnight things to do, but they're starts to a process. Sometimes how long the process takes, it really depends on what it is you're working on. But the reason why it's so important, before I share some tips to manage your anger or to manage that resentment, the reason why it's important, you all, is that we're all on a healing journey, right? The purpose of Mental Health Moment, the purpose why I'm here every single week with you all, is because when you can work on yourself, when you can work on becoming the best version of who you are, it makes a dramatic difference, not only in your life, but the people around you. So whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's your community, people at work, school, wherever it is that you reside, and the people around you are also going to have more positive experiences too. So you're sharing the love, right? Sharing and just really making a better difference in the world. I don't want to sound too cliche, but when you show up in a better healed version of you, in a more positive version of you, in a I got this, I'm not holding on to the anger and the resentment and all the things that maybe I'm holding on to, that has an impact for people around you as well. Here's the thing. For those of you new to Mental Health Moment, I will share with you different tips every single week. You do what works for you. With people that I've spoken to, when I go into different communities, speaking about mental health, meeting people from all over the world, which is pretty fun. But I have heard that before. That again, just putting things into perspective. For some of you who are not new to Mental Health Moment, that was my word this year, right? For 2024, perspective. But putting things into perspective, and that anger that you're holding on to, is it really going to be worth it in the next month or 6 months or a year or 5 years? Like, is it really worth it? Right? Probably not for most things. There's so much research about what anger does when we hold on. I mean, it contributes to our stress level. It contributes uh, to blood pressure issues. It can contribute to heart issues. It can contribute to so many things physically and also mentally too, with depression and with anxiety and with feelings of worthlessness and low self-esteem and all these sorts of things that can happen. And your body, I'm so fascinated now because lately I feel like I've been in a lot of spaces where I'm learning a lot more about chemicals that we more or less can work on controlling in our bodies, right? And how we can work on controlling great chemicals, good chemicals, right? Or negative chemicals in our bodies. So all of that anger and resentment that you're holding on to, it leads to cortisol, which many of you know about, the stress hormone in your body. We don't want things like that, right? We're trying to flush these things out. We want to get rid of toxins. We want to be healthy physically in our bodies. We want to be healthy mentally in our mind, right? So again, clinging to that anger is not helpful to you. So I really want you to think about, and for those of you who are here a little bit earlier, and I asked you to think about, are you ready to take that step? I didn't mean, because for some of you it's big. Like you may be like, I'm holding on to some anger for some really deep traumatic things. Not an overnight process, right? To forgive and just poof, let it go. I get it. It doesn't work like that. But you may be like, man, I'm ready to take a step in that direction to work on lowering my anger, to work on growing physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally, all these things through that. You may be ready to take that baby step, which is okay. Or it may be something that you're like, man, I got in a silly argument with my coworker and I was mad at them. something minor, right? That's a little bit easier to get over. So you also have to weigh out whatever it is that you're angry about. But bottom line is, as you all know, it doesn't help you grow as a person to hold on. I know people, I've met thousands of people at this point in my career from all over the world. It's been really cool, by the way. I love learning about different cultures, different people, different walks of life. But what saddens me sometimes, and not from a place of judgment, but what saddens me sometimes is people that I've talked to who hold on to so much anger for the whole lives, like the whole lives, and it really, really impacts them physically and mentally, really truly impacts them for a long time because of things that have happened to them, and holding on so tight to that anger and resentment. So I share this with you for you to hopefully get into a mental space, at least, to be like, you know what, let me take this space and let me take this opportunity to really think about how can I lower my anger levels and lower my resentment. We all have different physical abilities, or maybe some of us have chronic physical conditions, or just different levels of what we're able to do physically in our body. But regardless of where we're at on that spectrum, stress affects all of us in different ways, right? And it, I mean, gosh, I met so many people. I have so many stories on that, but nonetheless, yes, it there's so much research to show how it can affect pain levels, how it can affect chronic diseases, how it can cause chronic diseases. There's so much stuff that's presentable, or I mean, preventable, you all, when it comes to stress and anger. Like there's so many, not everything, but there's so many diseases that are preventable when we work on our stress and anger and sadness and anxiety and all these types of things. Grief is just terribly hard, yes, that is a really difficult situation for some of you. Again, as I mentioned, dealing with whatever type of anger or resentment that you have, one of the things that's really important to think about is, what is your healthy outlet for this? Healthy, keyword, healthy outlets. There's a lot of outlets that I've seen people use for anger, not healthy. So again, healthy outlet. What is your outlet for that anger? Because you have a you have a choice. Not easy to do, but you have a choice when it comes to anger. Either you let it fester in your body, which for some of us, we suppress our anger. It's going to come out in some way. It just is. So it's going to come out verbally, it could come out physically, it could come out yelling at people, lashing out, or not physically outward, but inwardly, again, affecting your body, affecting your mind. Like it, we have to release the anger, right? It does things when we hold it in. But you have a choice of whether or not to keep this all inside or to work on releasing it through healthy outlets. So, what is your healthy outlet? So, let me know in the chat what that could be. So, for example, healthy outlets, not unhealthy, is whether you need to, maybe some of you have heard the term grounding before, which is really exciting. I'm actually taking this class now about energy and grounding and all these good things, because I'm always trying to learn, how can I work on healing? How can I work on being a better version of myself? Everything that I teach you every single week on Mental Health Moment, I practice in my own life as well, in the way that works for me. And I want you to do the same thing. But again, healthy outlet could be something like grounding, which means that wherever that is for you, that's a peaceful place. A lot of times when people hear of grounding, they hear of being in nature. For example, that's a popular place. Maybe being on a beach or by a lake or mountain or wherever scenery you have around you, whatever's close to you. I'm in Florida, so I'm close to the beaches, kind of lucky. But maybe you're not near a beach. So it's a park or wherever it is that you're near, but you're in nature, right? And you plant your feet on the grass and you work on grounding yourself and really taking in nature around you and trying to, like, physically move, mentally and physically move the anger out of your body, right? It comes through deep breathing. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it's taking a minute, releasing out of your body the frustrations, the anger, the resentment, the disappointments, all the things that just, again, fester and do not bring you any purpose or value and help you with your health, right? So that's one example of a healthy outlet. So doing things like grounding. I like to do grounding Um, yeah, when I travel, or not just when I travel, also where I live. Because you can do grounding anywhere. That was just one example in nature. You can do grounding sitting in your room. You can do grounding sitting right now and just really getting into the zone and um like feeling the space around you, working sure that you're being present, working to make sure that you're being present, things like that. Like there's a whole process on that. That's actually a whole nother mental health moment. Um, but that was just one example again of a healthy outlet that you can have to work on like moving your anger out of your body. The other thing is there's so many physical activities that you can do. Movement is huge when it comes to anger. You've seen it before. You don't have to be a boxer unless you like to do that. Um, but boxers do it. People in sports do it, like just literally physically getting anger out, going to the gym, going for a walk, going for a run, hiking, swimming, biking, whatever it is that you like to do, whatever form of movement that works for you and your physical abilities and your what you like to do and brings you joy. That's another way to again try to move the anger out of your body, move that um, help your body with stress hormones, those sorts of things, like to literally move it out of your body so it's not stuck. Right. So that's just again another example. There's so many things that you can do. The biggest and most important thing to think about is being intentional with this though. Like being in a space where you can say, again, check in with yourself, which I preach all the time on mental health moment. But the reason why I preach it is because you're in a different space today than maybe you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. We change. We're allowed to change. And maybe right now you're like, you know what? I'm good. I don't feel any anger. I don't feel any resentment. There's nothing I really need to let go of right now. Fantastic. But then a year from now, or 6 months from now, or tomorrow, something may change and something pops up. Right. So just being aware of where you're at, right? There's many situations throughout my life that I've had to work on, forgiveness and letting go and healing from those things, right? So I'm in a state of like, okay, what do I need to heal from now? Like, how do I need to grow as a person? Like, but always having that and making sure you're checking in and doing the things, being with being or using your healthy outlets to process the anger and making sure that you move this out of your body and out of your mind as well. And again, it's not always overnight, and that's okay. It's the process, as I always say. Silence is such a powerful tool, but it can be scary at first if you don't take the time to really go into silence and you're not aware of your thoughts, especially if you're dealing with negative self-talk. Especially and actually with anger, some of you may be angry at other people or resentful of situations that did or didn't happen, but also some of you might be angry with yourself. So when we're angry at ourselves, we tend to tell ourselves a whole bunch of stuff that's not true. We could use harsh negative self-talk. So when you get silent, which is a powerful tool, but when you get silent, it might be hard for you because you're like, man, I can't stop thinking about, what I should have done, what I shouldn't have done. I'm a this, I'm a that. Like just the negative thinking that you may get into because maybe for you, your anger that you need to let go of is about you. And that's okay. It going to silence or going into meditation, it takes practice. It does get easier for most people, but it does take practice and it takes getting through the part in the beginning where you're like, man, I don't feel like I could turn my thoughts off. And I honestly wouldn't even worry about that part. It's just important to have silent moments of the day, even if you have 60 seconds or less. Like I always tell you all, it's just important to get into a place where you're not around noise, um, and you just have a couple minutes to de-stress, right? Work on releasing the anger, the resentment, the stress, whatever it is, and practice training your body and your mind to be like, it is okay for me to work on letting go. Like you can literally, for some of you, maybe use affirmations and you could tell yourself, let it go. Is it going to magically is it magically going to go away your stress in the first 5 seconds? Of course not. But over time, you're training your brain to work on letting things go. And it's a really powerful tool. once you master it, which you can. For some of us, that is true. And for some of us, we're in a space of anger and gratitude all at the same time. And we have a mixture of emotions, and sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes it's a ride, right? So it just depends on how we're wired. There's no right or wrong to this, though. You all, the best thing to think about, and even if right now, I do want to say this as a big asterisk of today, as I wrap up mental health moment, even if right now you're like, man, I am in a space where I'm angry or I'm resentful or all the things, what I don't want you to do though is get into a self blame game. That also doesn't help you as you're trying to manage the anger or the resentment or the forgiveness of yourself or forgiveness of others or forgiveness of situations or whatever it is that you're dealing with. It doesn't help you to go into a self blame space. So I do ask, as you continue on this mental health and wellness journey that we're all on, that you think about not blaming yourself for the anger. Here's the thing, too. One of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou, actually. She said, like, basically, she said, when you know better, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, you do better. So, for some of you, you're like, man, I didn't know. Like, I didn't, maybe you didn't know about mental wellness. Maybe you did or didn't know about how to manage anger. Maybe you did or didn't know about grounding or anger management or how important it is physically and emotionally and spiritually and mentally for you to work on letting things go and processing them and healing and letting things go. Maybe you didn't know any of that, right? So we're in a different space now, right? You're learning, take your time. Maybe you did know, but it was just hard to do. Like, things are hard, you all. Like, emotions are tough. I wish we could just snap out of things. I wish I had a magic wand, y'all. Okay, that's another mental health moment. I wish I had a magic wand, like it to just, be like, oh, or all of us just to be like, oh, we're good. No, it takes time to heal. Right? It absolutely takes time to heal. So do not play the self-blame game. Make that promise to yourself, at least as you're going through whatever healing process and journey that you are going through. Honestly, I do not know what PEMF stands for, but I know it's a grounding mat. I don't know the exact acronyms, but nonetheless, I have been seeing those recently about the grounding mats, and I find the whole process fascinating. So that's pretty cool. I am really lucky though because I'm in Florida, so I have a beach and I have warm weather most of the year. I don't have to worry about snow. I'm not trying to brag for those of y'all in snow right now, but I don't have to worry about that. So usually I can just get outside on the grass or on a beach or somewhere warm and start to ground. So I'm a little fortunate in that way. However, I think it's fascinating. I might still try it though, actually, the grounding mat. So that's cool that you use that. And for those of you that don't know what that is, so another mental health moment. I'm trying to wrap up here with y'all, but there's a lot of different tools now. I really don't feel like they had that a while back, like back when I was growing up. But nonetheless, there's a lot of different tools where you can, let's say you do live in a climate where you're like, I could never get outside because it's so doggone cold, then there's something called grounding mat. And essentially you can stand on it and work on like grounding yourself. And there's all sorts of, yeah, it's made in all sorts of special ways to get you to feel centered and those sort of things that you could feel like if you went to a beach or were on grass or near lake mountains and those types of natural resources. It's basically that. So yes, I have not personally tried it myself, but I've been interested in it. So cool. Many, many of us, including myself, which is okay, you all. We are working hopefully daily, if not weekly, but we are actively working on becoming better versions of ourselves, which is a great thing to do. You do it in the way that works for you. When you really stop to think, what do I need to let go of? You're like, oh, I need to let that go, right? And then you take the steps to start to clear your body, clear your mind, and just work on being a better version of who you were the day before that or the month before that, right? Like we're taking the steps. And some of you are taking leaps right now, which is amazing. Some of you are taking baby steps, which is equally amazing, right? Because we have to go at the pace that works for us. There's two different perspectives on daily routines. And it's so fascinating to me because lately I've been reading a lot of different things about most of what you read, right? Is like have the routine and get up and do this and go to sleep and do this. And I'm a fan too of certain parts of your day being in routine, but routine doesn't work for everyone. I was just reading a post by a colleague of mine who I absolutely adore, and she was Jen Gottlieb, and she was saying that she actually stopped her morning routine, and she used to have like such a like routine, but she stopped it because she needed a little bit more spontaneity in her life. So I just thought that was fascinating. I know, and I know of other people too that do that. They're like, no, I like this. I like to begin my day in a different way. Versus I started, many of you know, I think a year or two ago, having more structured routines as soon as I wake up. Gratitude practices, devotionals, not going to my cell phone right away, which is tempting sometimes, but not doing that to start and being more intentional. But there's no right or wrong, you all. Again, you have to do what works for you. So thank you for sharing that. It's really hard sometimes because unfortunately we cannot control what other people do or say to us. I wish we could. We can't. But we can control our own perspective, our own actions, our own healing process. Some of you are in environments, especially maybe if it's work environments where there's things that make you angry and get you upset, right? And there's certain things again you might not be able to control the team you work with, or wherever it is, the people that you're around. Sometimes you're not able to step away or whatever it is that's happening in your life. So though then we have to work on the healing aspect of that. What can we control? What can we change? What can we do for ourselves to get through and cope with those situations, right? So that's really, really important for you to be thinking about. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up here for real because I said that like 5 minutes ago. But if you guys need me at any time, you can always go to drnekeshiahammond.com. I do have a little enough. Well, it's not okay. I can't announce fully yet. But for those of you who have been tuning into Mental Health Moment for the past, I don't know, couple months or so, I think I vaguely said a little bit that I do have a new book coming out, so I'm super excited about it. But I will make the official announcement, yeah, coming up in the next month or so with all the information about it, because I'll have all the details on that. But I'm super excited about it. So I'm unofficially making an announcement that I'll have another announcement about the book. But I'm super excited about that. And I'll let you guys know all the details, of course, as soon as I have it. But again, drnekeshiahammond.com. If you need me, you can also reach out on dr.hammond on Instagram, dr_Hammond on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or any other social media platform. I'm usually sharing some sort of mental health resource or so on there. But again, I hope you have an amazing week coming up here. Again, really think about today. Again, what do you need to let go of? Letting go is not an overnight process, depending on what it is, but it's the beginning of a journey or the continuation of a journey. But at least knowing that when you work on letting go of the anger and the resentment, you're working on your health. You're working on showing up more powerfully for yourself. You're working on healing yourself so you can be a better version of who you are for those around you. Right. So taking those steps are really critically important. So I'm going to leave you with that. Have an amazing week, and I'll be back. Be blessed, and I'll see you next week, you guys. Bye, guys.